Friends, welcome back to Tales of Praxis. I'm your host, Aaron Suduko, the founder of With a Terrible Fate, withaterriblefate.com. If you've forgotten and need a refresher, or if you're just discovering us through this stream or the VOD of it afterwards, is your online home for everything to do with studying and appreciating the storytelling of video games. We just analyze their stories and work to understand what makes them so special, philosophically, narratively, everything in between. Started out mostly with long-form written articles, but we've branched out into podcasts, con lectures, trying to think of other pieces of content besides the stream, but the stream being the newest addition to it, and a lovely jewel in the With a Terrible Fate hub of content. In no small part, thanks to you, my intrepid adventurers joining with me on our JRPG journeys through the various worlds of Bandai Namco's Tales series. We started a few months ago with Tales of Symphonia, and then its sequel, Dawn of the New World, and now we're working through Tales of Zestiria to be followed by its sequel, but really prequel, Tales of Berseria. I hope if you were in the US and were able to have a long weekend, you enjoyed the long weekend. If not, I definitely took the long weekend, and I'm glad to be back with you now. One thing that I tweeted about, but I'll point out because I'm sure it'll come up more than once on this stream, is that I took it upon myself this weekend, since I don't have enough video games and JRPGs swirling around in my head, to also start Tales of Destiny, which is one of Namco's Tales games that I actually have never played before. It's one of the very old ones, actually the second oldest. It was released in '97, just 2 years after Tales of Fantasia, and totally by chance, I stumbled upon a copy of it at the last video game convention I lectured at, PAX East, so I had to snag it. I thought about saving it for the stream, but in the first place, I wanted to be able to play it now as opposed to waiting until we were done with this and Tales of Berseria. And in the second place, I still kind of have trepidation about going into a game blind on stream, especially an older one, because I feel like there's a special cadence to those retro sorts of games. But I am playing it. I'm definitely enjoying it. It's interesting because I'm already, like, I don't know, maybe 10 or 12 hours in, and I'm seeing a lot of interesting similarities and points of contrast between it and the games that we've been playing. Even Tales of Zestiria, which was about 20 years after it, but there are actually a lot of parallels in terms of conflicts between kingdoms and corrupt members of a church, which you might recall is what we're diving into next here on Tales of Zestiria. But then also some pretty stark differences, such as, for instance, we're here, as we've talked about, following the journey of someone who's basically a Christ figure, Sorey, the shepherd, trying to redeem humanity and save the world, whereas the main character of Tales of Destiny, Stan, is extremely upfront about saying that he went off on a journey from his little country hometown because he wanted to become famous and become rich. So those were his goals, and of course he gets sucked into much more than that, but it's interesting to see such a contrast in the protagonists and otherwise very kind of thematically similar Tales universes. So got that swirling around in my head. Still got the previous games we've streamed, which I'm working through some written analyses on, all of which to say, if I slur my fantasy worlds while we're talking this evening and beyond, just know that I'm doing my best. I had a hard enough time keeping straight all of the Xenoblade Chronicles games back when I was deep in analysis and lecturing and publishing on that, and those at least more or less took place in the same world, whereas the Tales games aren't all so continuous with one another, as we've talked about, which is why actually you'll see on the screen here, I was peeking at the synopsis before we started here to refresh myself. I think it's worth spending a moment here actually before we dive in, because I forget how directly we spoke about this in Dawn of the New World, but it is interesting to see the different ways in which the various Tales games approach like the art of a synopsis, because there's a lot more artistry to it than you might recognize if you don't stop to think about it. In the earliest games, like Fantasia or Destiny, you don't even have a synopsis. I mean, if you think about all of the guidance on the map and the world navigation UI that we've talked about in these more recent games. But man, strip away something like a synopsis, which we've all gotten so accustomed to in modern video games. And part of the struggle with those older games for me isn't just like the mechanics of figuring out what to do next, but just keeping track of all the story in my head where I can't go back and have these refreshers. And so I'm really glad that we've moved into this kind of quality of life stuff in the last, not even last few years. I mean, synopses have been around since at least Tales of Symphonia. We availed ourselves of it when we were streaming that, and that was 2003. So they've been around for a good while at this point, but I think a lot of the other quality of life things that we've been enjoying more recently in Zestiria have kind of built upon that same spirit. But, you know, in Tales of Symphonia, we had kind of a very detached, like, third-person narrator talking about the events of the party as we went through the game in the synopsis. Then in Dawn of the New World, I remember we did talk about it a little because it came up in the the failure state ending of the game. The synopsis was actually represented as Marta's diary. In Tales of the Abyss, you get a similar diary feel, but kind of an even more interesting one because it's from the perspective of Luke, the protagonist, who goes through a lot of wrestling with his own identity over the course of the game. And so you kind of see that play out in his diary, that is to say the synopsis, in ways that don't always present in the game content itself outside of the synopsis. And now we're back to what looks like a more detached third-person narration, which I was thinking before this kind of feels in keeping with the overall style of, you know, the King Arthur mythos and kind of chronicling the adventures of Sorey and his party kind of from the outside or a bit of remove. But for a quick plot reminder, not to belabor it before we get into this, it's worth reflecting on the last stream because I think it was a really good one. We had lots of fun conversation in the chat, and we also hit a lot of really interesting plot points. We met the Lord of Calamity, Heldalf, on the battlefield for the first time. Afterwards, we had the reveal that Rose, the mysterious traveling merchant we'd encountered more than once, is actually the leader of the Hidden Bones Guild of Assassins. She rescued Sorey during his kind of poorly calculated confrontation with the Lord of Calamity. And then we found out that she also has a very high resonance, which is to say aptitude for like seeing and engaging with Seraphim, that even is on a par with Sorey's. That's what the Seraphim told us. And so she ultimately decided to join Sorey, not as his squire. I think she very clearly did not like take the oath of the squire in the way that Alicia did, but more as kind of almost a peer. Like she's not a shepherdess. Shepherdess. That's what happens when you make up words on the fly. You don't process how to pronounce them. But she has the same capacity to armatize and bond with the Seraphim that Sorey does, which we talked about as interesting and meaningful in the conversation that Mikleo had with her basically before she decided to join the Shepherd's Quest, because Mikleo was pointing out how lonely and isolating it is for someone like Sorey, the only human in his party, and also really the only one who understood the burdens of the Shepherd. Even though Alicia was on his side, she wasn't really on a par with him in the way that Rose is. And so Rose, I think, you know, doesn't just believe in Sorey, but is also coming along to support him, kind of to lend him that the support of another human, which was pretty interesting. We learned a little bit more about Dezel, the wind spirit, who also joined up with us and became one of Lila's sublords and has been following with Rose and kind of taking advantage of the purity of Rose as a vessel, because Dezel, as I was reminding myself here in this synopsis, he's on a bit of a revenge quest, going after the Hellion who killed his friend, and I think sullied the name of the the Wind clan that Dezel is from. I don't totally remember the story there, but I'm sure we'll return to it. So it's interesting. We've been looking at sort of what causes or retains purity amongst people in Seraphim versus what begets malevolence and the transformation into Hellions. We thought a lot about that in relation to the Hidden Bones, these pure assassins last time, but also we have this interesting portrait of Dezel, someone who kind of doesn't have what we might otherwise consider pure intentions in terms of revenge, but he's able to kind of keep himself pure and keep his soul safe by affiliating with someone who is kind of purer than he is. That is to say, Rose. And so it'll be interesting to kind of think more about that dynamic as their characters unfold throughout this. While we were at the Hidden Bones' base, we explored some more ruins, surprise, surprise, but we discovered kind of the first bit of direction to the quest of the shepherd in a way that gave us a bit more of a at least quasi-linear quest than Lila had set out for Sorey in terms of exploring the world. We found a mural depicting what's known as the Trials of the Shepherd, which seemed to suggest that maybe there'll be a way for Sorey to fortify himself so that the next battle with the Lord of Calamity isn't so miscalculated and ill-fated from the get-go. I mentioned that mural was really familiar to me on the last stream. Pretty sure it is Final Fantasy IX. I didn't go through the trouble of looking through a whole playthrough to remind myself of where in the game that came up, but I'm pretty sure there's like a very similar motif of a mural that kind of directs you of where to go in the world in Final Fantasy IX, which this may well be aware of and sort of a bit of an homage to. After that, we ventured into the Kingdom of Rolance. I think, if memory serves, because Sorey had kind of been planning to go there anyway, and then also one of the emblems on the mural depicting the Trials of the Shepherd was nearby there anyway. So we found ourselves in Lastenbell, which was kind of, I think, on the way to the capital of Rolance. We met Sergei, the leader of the Platinum Knights, who fell for the duplicity of Rose and Sorey kind of sneaking or lying their way into town by saying that they were married and traitors and definitely nothing to do with the shepherd or his mission. But it turns out Sergei had his own agenda as kind of a pure knight among the ranks of the impure, kind of giving us echoes of Alicia and everything that she'd been through. Turns out, speaking of impurity within institutions that ought to be pure, there is some suspicious goings on with a cardinal in the Church of Rolance. As we see here in the synopsis, Cardinal Fortin. The Pope went missing, and then strange things seem to be happening, and he suspects the cardinal. So he's basically asking Jesus to infiltrate the church and help figure out where things have gone wrong and set things right. Which, again, I hadn't even really processed this until I sat down to get back into Zestiria, but it's amazing how similar that is to the content I've been playing through this weekend in Tales of Destiny, because at least in the part of the game that I'm working through at the moment, it all centers on kind of a renegade high priest who has made off with a potentially apocalyptic artifact for his own ends and kind of political subterfuge. So, let's try not to mix up my worlds too much. Excited to get back into this. I think that's more than enough preamble. Let's jump back in. And we are off to, yes, Pendrago, on to the capital of Rolance, now that we have kind of gotten the lay of the land and the setup for our mission from Sergei. Onward. Evie missed you too. She's saying hi.
A murder case, huh? It's very disturbing, even in Rolance.
So, how's it looking for the new hideout?
We're still looking into it. Mallory, the Patinal Forest, seems like it'd be an ideal place, though.
Perfect timing! We wanted to ask you about something, boss. I figured you'd need me to come along.
It's not about the hideout. It's about our job as the Sparrow Feathers.
We can't decide on which product to purchase. Mabo buns or curry buns? Which do you like? Mabo curry buns!
Isn't that just your personal preference?
Nope, it's a rational decision I'm making as the boss of the Sparrow Feathers. This is just what the world needs, the sheer deliciousness that only this combination can bring. Sounds kind of subjective to me.
Fine, we'll go with that. You guys do all kinds of stuff.
That about sums up what we do. And we don't do jobs just for money.
I see.
That's why we make our actual living as merchants.
Well, mostly Akil does.
I'm the one who gives the okay on bringing out new products. All right, we'll be going back now.
Boss, try and drop by the Forest of Mallory if you can. Everyone's already gone there.
Will do. Take care, y'all.
There's something kind of subversive to me about this, where I know we talked a little bit last time about the significance of the Hidden Bones, and Rose is the leader of the Hidden Bones as this kind of apolitical entity that exists outside of either empire, and is therefore kind of at least somewhat removed from human affairs in the way that the Seraphim have been saying that Sorey is the shepherd has to be, despite the fact that the role of the shepherd is to serve humanity in a similar way to how the Hidden Bones also serve humanity despite not being on either side of a conflict. And I think that sort of dual identity of the Hidden Bones as not just assassins but also merchants as the Sparrow Feathers is kind of a cool extension of that, where between like facilitating trade and also like facilitating assassinations and sort of the dirty work of humanity through the odd jobs and contracts that they take, they're kind of making possible all of the goings-on of society and humanity, and ultimately even the empires that go to war with each other without directly being like a vassal of a particular empire, or something that makes one empire dominant over the other. Man, well now I'm torn, because I think we're supposed to go to Pendrago next. But it also looks like there's this murder subplot, side quest, to work out in the town. Maybe I'll just do a lap before we go and see if we can find any more people with exclamation points to advance that. I'm surprised that the people aren't more clearly pointed out, like the purple stars that we saw. Oh, purple star! Speak of the devil. Yeah, so those indicate side quests, I think. So then maybe these double circle indicators on the map, maybe that indicates side quest content. That's right, we don't have a Lord of the Land to bless this area yet. Although the Seraphim reminded us that that's not always the priority. We don't have to be completionist as we go through the game. Subterranean lake in Cambria Caverns.
It seems like the Guardian Seraph became a Hellion.
But why would it just up and leave like that?
Save that one. I feel like the one who was over by where we met with Sergei was it Turtles? But we can go back and check. We can open the save point and get a skip.
Wilkis Wilk. Hey, Sorey, what does my true name mean?
Oh, it means Rose is Rose.
Rose is Rose. Isn't that
A
kind of
rose
lazy?
by any other name.
Is it? I mean, I made it on a whim, but I thought it seemed fitting.
It was an urgent situation, after all. But Princess Alicia used to be a squire, right? What was her true name?
Melphis Amechia. It means Alicia the Smiling.
Oh, I see. So it's not lazy. You're just being biased.
Huh? How?
My smile is pretty gorgeous, too, you know.
Quit it, Rose. You're scaring me.
Rose, that's just how Sorey is. Yeah, I know. Maybe his name should mean Sorey is Sorey.
Yeah, that's right. So I misspoke in my on-the-fly synopsis at the start of this. Rose did become a squire. It was just that she was more able to kind of stand on her own and therefore not tax Sorey with the with the weight of her squiredom in the way that the Squire bond with Alicia did, because she wasn't as compatible. I think that's the explanation. That's cool too in terms of Rose being on a par with Sorey. The fact that her true name means Rose is Rose, because that to me, besides hearkening to the expression "a rose by any other name is still a rose," like I alluded to, also recalls the line that Sorey said a few streams ago. I forget exactly what it was, but something like, well, I know it wasn't "I am what I am," because that's so cliched and generic, and it wasn't quite that, but it was that sentiment, like, all that I am, and that's not going to change. Just that kind of raw, unadorned authenticity, which I think we do also get from Rose. But man, up in the park. This man? Okay. I think I might have missed the one that's off in a corner on the way out of town. Let's go there and then assess. We did this one. Ah, of course you're hiding behind boxes. Looks like there might be one on the way out of town too. No, we got that one already. I feel like we got all of the exclamation point people. Doesn't seem like any quest is going to magically emerge from that. Maybe it's worth checking in the sanctuary, since one of them is about the presence or lack thereof of Seraphim in the sanctuary. And then I was also thinking they were saying the murders happened at night, so we might rest in the inn before we move on too, in case that triggers a sub-event. And then we can move on. I think we read this one already. Oh, guess not. That was one thing that I did find myself missing in Tales of Destiny more than I expected to, was the skits. I forget exactly when they showed up in Tales history. No, I don't forget. I don't think I know that fact. But I guess it was somewhere between 97 and 2003, because we have them in Symphonia. I don't know if that was the first time or if they did them in any of the earlier games. Because there weren't that many, I think, between Destiny and Symphonia. I think there were two. I think we got Tales of Eternia, and then Tales of Destiny got a sequel, and I haven't played either of those. But in Destiny and Fantasia, at least, you don't have skits. And you really don't realize how much texture they add to the Tales games until you play through a Tales game without them. They bring in texture in different ways, but it's not quite the same. The skits really are something special to the series, I think. Alright, well that triggered nothing. Oh, but we do have a new exclamation mark now? Maybe that just triggered from going to a new area and then coming back here. Oh, this looks like the guy who's in the park. Oh, Gramps' pipe. Oh, we can buy it back? Yeah, we gotta do that. That's awesome. I don't know that I ever did that before. That's nice. I love those sorts of sentimental moments you can just stumble upon without looking for them in JRPGs, and I think the Tales games especially are pretty adept at manufacturing them. Now the real question is, if we go all the way back to Elysia, can we have a conversation with Gramps about it? I wouldn't be surprised, given that this was a 2015 game. I feel like it was sufficiently developed in the series to include those sorts of twists and turns. Because a lot of that, I mean, was already in kind of the decisioning of the script in like Tales of Symphonia or Tales of the Abyss. I feel like they've been doing that for a while.
Do you think Rose has gotten used to us being around yet?
Yeah, I feel like she mostly has. She may be a big old scaredy cat, but she's pretty adaptable.
I'm not so sure. That fear of hers may run deeper than it looks. Remember, it was powerful enough to suppress even her prodigious resonance.
With the help of someone we know.
I don't have to apologize for anything.
But even so, Rose tagged along of her own volition. I'm sure she'll be just fine.
I want to believe she will. Human compatriots like Rose are 1 in a million.
In more ways than one.
Yeah, in more ways than one.
What's so funny?
I was just thinking, maybe we're the ones getting used to Rose and not the other way around.
Very likely.
You're talking to Lila and the others while they're invisible again, aren't you? Creepalicious!
Guess she's still got a ways to go.
It just takes time and patience.
I don't know if creepalicious is quite the neologism that Rose wants there. I feel like that sounds almost positive to my ear, whereas she definitely doesn't mean it as a positive thing about what's going on there. Mabo curry bun, baby. Yeah, the dish that Rose wanted the sparrow feathers to buy.
This town's just bursting with sinister rumors, isn't it?
Yeah, no wonder they call it the Age of Chaos.
And a lot of them sure sound like the work of Hellions.
If you're interested, why don't we investigate?
But we have someplace to be already.
Taking a little sidetrack isn't gonna kill us. It's not like we promised a specific time frame or anything. I'm with Rose.
Me too. It's a good opportunity. Why squander it?
Fair point. All right, let's do it. No regrets.
Except the regret of getting involved.
Now I feel like they're encouraging us to do the side questing, which makes me feel like there's more here to find. We've spoken off and on about the tension between missions to save the world and then giant open worlds that you're driven to explore rather than completing that pressing mission to save the world, like the old joke of, you know, Link taking forever to get to Zelda in Breath of the Wild because he's busy cooking and digging around even after he's, you know, been woken and there's this clear and present danger and need to save Zelda. And I feel like Zestiria does do a better than average job at balancing those, where even though Sorey is on a mission to save the world from all this chaos and darkness, they make it the case that the way in which the world needs to be saved and the kind of hero he is all kind of centers on the ethos of wandering around and just going wherever your attention guides you in a way that makes you feel as a player like you're not causing friction in the narrative or taking Sorey off his destined path, whether you decide to explore a lot in each town or just push him from one objective to the next as fast as you want. Wow, okay, there are even higher tiers of hidden arts. If we remember to hold the buttons and have unlocked them. Alright, do we have any new icons on the map? I'm gonna say, why don't we go on for the moment? And we can always come back here if we feel there's more to discover. Not as obvious as I would have expected how to continue these side quests. I was marveling at the, again, complexity of the just battle and equipment systems in Tales of Zestiria as I was playing Tales of Destiny this weekend, because Tales of Destiny's philosophy, as far as I can tell, in terms of equipment, is almost antithetical to this, where here they want you to be collecting a bunch of weapons and fusing them and recombinating them to get all of the right, skill stacks to beef up your characters to the max. And in Tales of Destiny, you have this group of weapons that are literally characters. They're called Swordians, and they have like consciousness, and they speak throughout the game. And there's only one of each of them, and they're assigned to particular characters. So each character can equip weapons that are just regular weapons as opposed to these Swordians, but you're strongly incentivized to just use these, like this fixed set of 6 weapons, the Swordians, because they grow in power as the characters level up, and they also uniquely give you access to using spells. Like it's only possible in this world to use spells through the the catalyst of a Swordian. And so it's like, yeah, you could use all of these different pieces of equipment, but you're almost missing the point of the game if you decide to. At least that's my best read on it so far, which again is so far away from what Tales of Symphonia seems to be trying to get us to do with its equipment system.
Lastenbell didn't have a Lord of the Land either. We did see a couple of Seraphim, but it didn't look like they were living together.
I can't see them, but they've been here the whole time. To think that it's always been like that is just so friggin' scary.
But in the past, Seraphim were revered. And in return, Seraphim gave the people their blessing.
That's how it was in the era of coexistence?
Yep.
But the humans came to only believe in things that they could see.
That can't be helped. There's barely anyone who could see Seraphim like Sorey and Rose.
It's scary that there are people around you that you can't see, but at the same time, it's sad. It's sad that they can't be noticed even though they're there.
I wish everyone thought the same way you did, Rose.
What a capacity for empathy.
Do you want something?
Hey, you.
My name is Rose.
I know.
Then call me by my name.
Hey, Rose.
That's better. What do you want?
Quit doing stuff like that.
Stuff like what?
Riding on the shepherd's back like that.
Huh? Did you see that?
By chance.
Gah, that's why Seraphim freak me out sometimes.
It's careless to entrust your body to someone like that.
But that was part of the plan, to catch them off guard and then mow them down.
That's not something an adolescent girl should do.
Mowing people down?
Riding around on someone's back.
There's something wrong with a girl being carried on someone's back?
It's careless of you.
I told you it was part of the plan.
I give up.
I don't get it.
I guess we need to point out the obvious of how nutty it is for Dezel to be telling Rose it's careless to entrust her body to someone else like that when we determined last time he had actually been like possessing her and manipulating her for his own ends at various points through their relationship. But I guess it takes one to know one, right? They're even telling you how and when and why to grind. Not sure how I feel about that.
Mikleo, look! It's just like what was in the Celestial Records.
It's the Leaning Tower. I didn't know that it would be this big.
So the forest is where the new base is for the sparrow feathers. That's probably side content. And Pendrago is where we're going next in the main story. Yeah, see, I get what we've been talking about in the chat in the stream about the world being largely like wide open spaces without much in it, but I do feel like that gives them all the more space to play with, like larger than life monumental figures like this Leaning Tower. I think that does give the world a nice aesthetic. Alright, the question mark is there. Not the question mark, the exclamation point. Might as well go there first. Brutor.
Hellion does a headlong rush attack.
That too, Brutor?
The punnery never ends. And so die the Shadow. I'm glad Rose did that because I'd kind of forgotten about Mystic Arts, to be honest.
Looks like we win.
What have we here? Malevolent Crucible. Oh, I think I remember. I think this is like a challenge dungeon. We probably don't want to do this now, I'm guessing. But we can check it out at least.
Well, this doesn't look good.
We're in a foul place.
This feeling. We've been in places like this before.
It's a crucible of malevolence. They make Hellions fight to make them nastier.
Venomization, a diabolical practice. It appears this ruin was built
It's
to
that
do
thing we
just
saw the
that.
Lord of Calamity doing in that one
Who would
Iris
make
gem.
such a thing?
I don't know, but there are several places such as this on the Glenwood continent. I had thought they had all been sealed up, but...
Looks like they're back in business.
This has to be held off. No question about it.
We'll stop this.
Something's blocking our way.
It must be to keep outsiders from entering. It's most likely that only certain people are allowed inside.
So, it's me alone, huh?
A solo fight. If it were me, I could ask for nothing better.
Cool guy Dezel has spoken. Yeah, I might save that for later. I feel like I'm still getting used to the synergies with all the characters. It's too early to be challenged by doing away with all of those. But we can try this fight instead.
Don't underestimate
So big. Do you think we can defeat them?
You can't beat them if you half-ass it. If you're scared, just run away.
They are indeed strong, but we can win if we try. It'd be better to dodge their attacks than defend. Think you can do it?
Seems like we might have been overzealous getting into this.
Red-Legion Giant!
Yep. Well, hey, at least we can say we tried. Let's go to Pendrago. I think that was enough futzing around in the field to satiate me for the moment. I think it was to the west. I should have been paying more attention to that sign we passed. Pretty sure it's to the west.
Great, it's raining. This sucks.
Not for me. It's nice and dry inside Sorey.
That is whole new levels of creepy.
Inclined to agree with Rose on that one.
Why can't I be a dumb dry ghost too?
It's over! That's the way! Yeah! Ready? Yeah! Hold on, everyone! This isn't over
You can't just swing your sword around and win.
What about swinging an umbrella around?
That is next level. See, I'm primed from the Xenoblade Chronicles games now to expect like different monsters or other changes on the field whenever the weather changes, but I don't know if we get that in Zestiria. Or if it's more just cosmetic than anything else. I think this is the right way. Is there really no way to zoom out on these? Oh, there it is. There is a zoom out button. It's just not indicated. I was gonna say it would be a bold move to make maps that are so big and then also make it that you can't see them all in a single screen. Are we going the right way, sign? Pendrago! Southwest. Yeah, we are.
Don't underestimate me. It appears we're going to get stung. They sure seem persistent. Tiger Blade! Tiger Blade! Almost right evil! Ready? Rampaging Giant! Eat this! Rampaging Giant! Take this! Rampaging Giant! Double Demon Fist! Rock Runner! Rampaging Giant! Double Demon Fist! Eat this! Rock Runner! Ready? Go! Looks like we win!
Boy, those fists are really something when armatized Sorey and Edna get going. They're not fast, but they pack a punch.
Stand strong!
Let's get him before they fly away.
That goose flew the chicken coop.
That doesn't quite make sense. Current! Blade back! Tiger Blade! Strike! It's over! How's this? Strike! It's over!
Sorey, is your sword style self-taught?
Yep.
Your grip, swing, and focus need work. But otherwise, it's okay.
Is that a compliment?
Of course not.
No, it is.
If you rule out most of the things that go into swordsmanship, you're doing great.
Even out of the rain, it's still so cold.
I'll say.
Damn.
They've gone from scary to annoying. Still, to think Seraphim sneeze just like we do.
We're not out of the rain, though. The continuity of that one was a little challenging. Trying to place Dezel's character on a Tales character map. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anyone who's exactly like him. He's almost like a combination of gritty and detached and sardonic, but also kind of invested in spite of himself. Like maybe a combination of Kratos from Tales of Symphonia and like Jade from Tales of the Abyss. Maybe if they did the fusion dance, they would get something close to Dezel.
Whoa! This place is huge!
Yes, Pendrago is the largest city on the Glenwood continent.
Where can we find an inn?
I recommend the one directly in front of the plaza.
You sure know your way around.
Well, you know, I used to come here a lot.
Okay, this is where I got to in my most recent attempted replay of this, because I remember being overwhelmed by the scale of the capital city. And then I took time away from the game and I tried to go back to it, and I was so lost and disoriented that it was pretty hard to jump back in at this point.
Sergei!
He's one of the Cardinal's subordinates. I tried to apprehend him, but you saw what he was like.
His movements were incredible.
You could tell, right? It was a Hellion.
The Cardinal's underling is a Hellion? Then...
Doesn't spell good things for the Cardinal.
Forgive me, sir. He's escaped into the Shrine Church.
It looks like it's true.
I believe he was likely a messenger of...
I'm cold. You can blather on inside.
Edna's priorities.
Tell us the details after we find shelter from the rain, if you please. Our friends are feeling a bit chilly, and even a seraph can catch a cold. Friends?
As I've learned in the last minute to minute and a half.
Not that you could tell, since you can't see them.
Forgive me. I should have been mindful of the Seraphim's presence. Let us head for the Knight's Tower. Your wife sure is considerate.
Yep.
He's never gonna let this go.
he still thinks they're married.
I almost can't tell at this point whether, Sergei is an innocent soul who was really duped by Rose and Sorey, or if he totally knew from the get-go that they were lying and now he's just doubling down and trolling them for it because they haven't, corrected him or admitted to him that they were lying. You know what the city reminds me of with all the gray stonework and the rain? I'm never gonna remember the name of it, but the city in Final Fantasy IX, again, speaking of Final Fantasy IX, where I think you're only able to interact and engage with it under these rainy, gray conditions. It's where you meet Kuja for the first time. I think it's where the Dragoon from the game Freya is from. Very similar, somber music in the background. I love that aesthetic in a JRPG. I think it's a nice centerpiece, especially for this kind of mid to late stage in a journey.
What a resplendent fountain.
Yeah, it's one of the famous sights of Pendrago. I don't know a lot about it, but supposedly, the water's piped in from afar through an underground channel.
Oh, I see.
So much work for something that doesn't even serve any purpose. Stupid, simple humans.
Well, considering their lack of seraphic arts, I think their technological advancement is commendable.
Useless, pointless, waste of effort.
It's also known as the Fountain of Wrath.
Wrath? Why do they call it that?
Something with the piping's all messed up. Every now and then. Like that.
Oh dear. Stupid, stupid humans.
I was just looking up Final Fantasy IX because it was going to bother me. Bermesia, I think is the name of the city-state that I'm talking about. Because that's where Freya's from. And I'm pretty sure it's where it's been devastated by the Empire's forces or something when you get there, so it's mostly ruin and it's perpetually rainy. That's where we first meet the man, the myth, the legend, Kuja. But back to this JRPG. are we supposed to get to that question mark? Oh, I see. The map wraps around. Just doesn't show us that quite as well on the mini-map. Toidles! Speaking of map. Who is this traitor amongst turtles? Really getting sucked into the turtles' deep lore this time around. Ah, the suspicious cardinal also is rumored to be performing miracles. There's a common trope for corrupt church leaders and false idols if ever I've seen one. Knight's Tower! Alright. Got it in one.
This should be a better place to talk.
Did everything go okay? Can we get in the church?
I secured the permissions, but after that last incident, I'm afraid we're likely under high scrutiny.
So what else is new? They weren't big fans of us in the first place.
Yeah, good point. We've got nothing to hide. Let's do it.
Look at that. Ever since Rose joined up with us, I feel like Sorey has become so much more proactive.
Too bad it means that much more trouble for us.
Thank you.
It was my decision to begin with. And besides, I've really wanted to see the shrine inside the church.
There's something about you that reminds me of the Pope. He too would never hesitate to spare expenses for the sake of his people.
Oh boy, another masochist.
I see.
I've prepared lodgings for you. I pray that the Seraphim will also be able to rest well tonight.
But Captain, it's been 3 days since last we heard from Boris after his infiltration. I believe we should hurry.
Who's Boris?
The rain may be affecting our food supplies, but I shall prepare our famous Drago stew for you.
Aren't you the least bit concerned? He's your only brother.
I do not wish to burden you with my troubles any more than I already have.
Oh, sir.
Please rest for now.
You don't have to burden yourself with it.
It's a kind offer. Let's take it.
Let
We
us
will.
share your burden,
Thank you.
Sergei, please. I'd be interested to hear whether anyone watching feels the pull of what Lila was saying
Sergei sure
about
seems like a
Sorey
good guy.
being more proactive
He
ever
is.
since Rose joined
Though
up.
I fear he may be a bit too genuine and sincere to command the knights.
I agree. I hope he has what it takes.
We've got plenty of worries of our own. Let's not get hung up on other people's issues.
Didn't want to talk over them. I was just going to say, because that comment of Lila's about Sorey being more proactive now that Rose is here, that doesn't, like at first blush, that doesn't really ring true for me. So, I mean, from the get-go, we saw Sorey as very proactive in terms of being out there exploring the ruins and deciding almost on a whim to become the shepherd because he saw that it would be something that would help people. So I feel like he's kind of throughout the game, like one of his core characteristics has been rushing headlong into things that he believes in, which is kind of the paragon of proactiveness in my mind.
Now that was a meal.
Like maybe Rose helps to support that, but I don't feel like it's something new to Sorey per se.
You sure can eat.
So can these two.
It was surprisingly good. I couldn't help myself.
Drago stew, 85 points.
Pretty
My
healthy
policy
rating.
is eat while you can. It's been ingrained in me since I was a kid. That's the law of a soldier.
A soldier, huh?
Soldier? Aren't you and your buddies in an assassin's guild?
Well, you know, it wasn't always like this. We used to be just a band of mercenaries. Not to brag, but they called us the best on the continent.
Is that right?
That's it for me. We've got a job to do tomorrow.
Is Rose's band of mercenaries the one you mentioned before?
The Wind Riders, I believe.
That's what
I
Duzzle
think
was
I've heard
talking
of
about.
them. The tale said just 100 of them could scatter a force of 20,000 men and capture 3 castles in one night.
Yeah, they were a legendary band of mercenaries. It's no wonder Rolance itself was their primary employer.
They sound crazy strong.
Strong and loyal. To the point that even the Emperor of Rolance trusted them like his right-hand man. Isn't that right?
It's true. Was true. But then, the Imperial family of Rolance ended up stabbing them in the back, along with the very one I'm seeking vengeance against.
The Imperial family joined forces with Hellions?
Is it that surprising?
I guess not. People and Hellions aren't separate entities after all.
Very true. You can even consider them 2 sides of the same coin.
In fact, if the Cardinal's power is somehow linked to a Hellion, things start to make sense.
It looks like Rose snuck out through the back. Can't take my eyes off her for a second.
Hey, Dazzle!
I wonder if someone ordered an assassination.
Who? And was she asked to do it by herself?
Either way, this is bad.
What they were just saying about people and Hellions being like 2 sides of the same coin. It's an interesting thread to pull in terms of what we've talked about over the last couple streams about the relationship between like magic realism and fantasy in this game, depending on how you're looking at the world and from which perspective and what you can see or not. Because it's easy for us as the players of a JRPG, or like Sorey and company as the shepherd and his cohort, to think of Hellions as these demonic fantasy creatures. But then there's also the perspective that at the end of the day, they're kind of just bad people, like morally corrupt people are Hellions. And so if you're a person, you know, another person might not present as a literal demon, even if their soul has kind of been Hellionized and made demonic. But I think that's a cool way of sort of showing just through the world building and the way that these characters present to us how the monstrous can so easily be among us in the real world in a way that we don't always even realize or process. Sure. Give me more skills. Still looking for that focus one to finish the skill column we were working on for Sorey. I'm a little worried we already missed it. Those little Norman fellas are hard to find unless you really keep your eyes peeled for them.
What's wrong? Why are you all here?
That's what we want to know. Where were you going?
Oh, just taking a walk. Thought maybe I ate too much.
You don't have to follow every whim that pops into your head, damn it.
We thought you might have ditched us to go assassinate someone.
Not yet, silly. That comes later.
Wait, what?
It's from someone who lost their son in the war that just broke out. Killed the one who started the battle. The invasion was proposed to the Emperor about a year ago, in documents bearing the name of Pope Macedra.
Huh? You're gonna kill the Pope?
Hold on. How do you know someone didn't just use his name? I thought he went missing after all.
Maybe. But then again, maybe not. It's awfully close to the time he went missing. We'll have to investigate further.
And what if we find out that he's bad?
If it's evil, the scattered bones slay it.
Even if it's the Pope?
The Pope, the Emperor, even the Shepherd. Oh, was that inappropriate?
I mean, maybe a little
I'm
off
not a
kilter.
fan
at
of that
least.
last part, it's true.
It isn't like we walk around all stabby-stabby. We make sure what kind of person our target is first.
I think I understand you better, Rose.
Do you now? Well, that's good.
I'm starting to understand too. Why she bears no malevolence, that is.
Because she's as nuts as he is?
Rose would certainly never tell a lie, that's for sure.
She was always that way. It's in her blood.
Was the Pope the type of person who would just up and start a war?
That's certainly not the impression of him we got from Sergei.
He's the de facto leader of a powerful country. He's probably got more layers than you'd think.
I have this half-baked thought I want to call out now just because I think it'll be interesting for us to keep track of as we move through the further stages of the game, and it relates to stuff that we've been talking about earlier in the stream, because, you know, we've already called out more than once these, like, two not always especially compatible roles that Sorey has been called to serve, between being this kind of redemptive Christ figure, but also this Arthurian, like, warrior, and we saw the tension and kind of fraught consequences that can come about from putting those in a single body during that war sequence where he just absolutely devastated everyone on the battlefield and scared the pants off of all the Rolance soldiers, because the Highland forces had, like, blackmailed him into fighting on their side, you'll recall. So I'm wondering almost whether part of what Rose brings to the group, and what kind of allows her to balance the shepherd and makes the shepherd's journey possible, in a sense, is the idea that her presence kind of allows those roles to be fulfilled by two different people, as opposed to wrapping them into the same person, because then Sorey can be more of the pure redemptive Christ figure who doesn't have to be forced into the same sort of, like, almost crusade-esque mindset of being a holy warrior, because that's kind of what Rose does in her role as the leader of the Hidden Bones and this kind of morally upright assassin. It's interesting to think that that dualism of their relationship and the roles they play in saving the world is kind of part of what allows Sorey to move forward, not just with more confidence, but with kind of a more coherent sense of self than he had prior to her intervention in the story, which would maybe even be one way of reading why Sorey was, like, destined to lose in his first confrontation with the Lord of Calamity, which, you'll remember, also happens right on the heels of that really tense and fraught representation of Sorey as the holy warrior on the battlefield that we were just talking about. If you see me accidentally flying to the wrong menus, it's because also, even though Tales of Destiny was on the PlayStation, for whatever reason, it hilariously mapped its selection and cancellation buttons to the exact opposite of what Sony usually does. Maybe that just was the convention back then in the 90s and it flipped at some point. But whereas in this game and most other modern ones, it's X to go forward and circle to go back. It's circle to select and X to go back in Tales of Destiny. We're going to the Shrine Church. Alright. I'm not sure where that is, but I'm sure we can find it. stage. Maybe we'll take in a play later. That looks like it's a dungeon over there. Don't think that's where we want to go. Maybe to the northern quarter? No, this is where we were before. Maybe we do want to go down that other side.
Well, that was easier than we thought.
This looks like an auditorium of sorts for the believers.
Sure looks like a small crowd.
What a way of describing a church. An auditorium for believers. I like that turn of phrase.
Can you tell me the names of the seraphim who hold the utmost power, known as the Five Lords?
Museth! Oh, and Eumacia!
Hyanawa and Almanac!
Correct. Now, can you tell me the name of the last one? The seraph who's worshipped here at the Shrine Church?
Motelis!
Oh, tell us.
That's right. Motelis is the seraph who has given the entire Glenwood continent his blessing.
The seraph worshipped at the Shrine Church is Motelis?
The Five Lords, huh? Big movers and shakers.
I bet Motelis would know something about how to stand against the Lord of Calamity. He's got to.
Is he really all that?
Well, he's the leader of the Five Lords after all.
You must be Sorey. Welcome to the Rolance Church headquarters. I heard you were to visit. Please, come on in.
Now tell
It's
us.
more magnificent than I'd even imagined.
The architecture
you probably won't
definitely
come up
dates it
again.
to the height of the era of Asgard.
Glad to see you're impressed, but don't let your guard down.
I never do. Not when modern technology allows us to flip so seamlessly from world navigation into battles.
This inscription concerns the trial of the shepherd, and the spiritual powers he obtains upon clearing it.
Could the spiritual powers
Be real?
Bzz, 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 bzz.
Be real, real bees. Oh, bees everywhere.
just possibly? It's like the lettering's meant to tell us something.
But it's all gibberish. It must be some kind of code.
Well, it does involve sensitive info. Maybe there's a hint to crack the code somewhere.
Hey, what does the big rock thing say?
I'm afraid I'm not really sure. The inscription is written in some sort of cipher, and the key to interpreting it is handed down only from pope to pope.
So, I guess we'll have to get the Pope to read it then, huh?
And then Rose can kill him. A plan emerges. Oh no!
Sorey!
Jesus Christ.
Something's wrong. Let's get out of here.
Talk about a powerful domain of malevolence.
I don't feel so good. What is going on?
It's a Hellions domain, just like when we fought Heldalf.
Now see, just the fact that Rose is here, like, bearing witness, and as a party outside of Sorey, makes, like, representations of the world like this with the Hellions domain so much more interesting to me, because when it was just Sorey, I could imagine, okay, we as the player are seeing the world as he's able to perceive malevolence, But now I find myself wondering, especially as Rose is still like getting acclimated to this stuff, like as she's here and she's looking out at the world, is she also seeing this purple tint and all of these clouds and kind of hearing, so to speak, the music and kind of that malevolent content that we're experiencing? Or does she have more of just a generic bad feeling and she needs Sorey to explain it to her because she can't quite perceive it for herself yet? Her interjection there makes me think the latter one of those.
They're alive.
But it's a little ambiguous in a fun way.
It's like they've been turned to stone.
So she can see that at least. That's something. So maybe some of the effects of Hellion domains are rooted in objective fact that anyone can experience, whereas some are more metaphysical or only perceptible to those with resonance.
Going home already, Shepherd? I am Cardinal Fortin of the Church of Rolance.
Seen here looking super non-threatening.
This domain, is it yours?
Ah, so you can still move. Why don't you lend me your powers? For the sake of the people, of course.
They asked me the same thing in Highland.
I hardly think myself the equal of a Philistine like Bartlow.
Sounds like something a Philistine would say.
I was gonna say.
Charming, but sticks and stones and so on, young lady.
Ooh, she's good.
I have but one wish. To see my empire overcome this tumultuous era of chaos. A task only possible if the people are united.
Nationalism.
But Rolance
It
is
always
far too
ends super
expansive
well.
to unify the people through mere patriotism alone. Shepherd, do you know exactly what it is that the state has used for eons to keep an entire country in line?
Is it?
I want to say religion or.
Yes, faith. It is the belief in their own salvation that inspires in people the greatest sense of unity when they band together against outsiders who share different values. Meaning that my church itself should serve as the cornerstone for all of Rolance.
The Holy Rolance Empire, if you will. We're having fun on a Wednesday.
One who would guide the people. With the name and power of the Shepherd, more people than ever can be brought to salvation.
Then you should cooperate with the Knights. Wouldn't that really be what's best for everyone?
I would welcome their efforts if they would simply bend to my will and do as I command. Even if they are a pack of loutish meatheads who can't figure out that their Pope abandoned them.
Wait a minute, the Pope just ran away? You didn't have him locked up?
I am not a street thug, child. The Pope, Macedra, I should say, left of his own accord. Abandoning his duty to both the Empire and his followers. What, pray tell, would you call such a man?
Pretty irresponsible, if what you're saying is true.
Irresponsible is one word, and still there are so many fools out there who trust in such a coward. The Knights, for example. In order to bring the people together, we must find Macedra and give him his due punishment.
Punishment?
Yes, the same punishment that befell those uncivil enough to mistrust me.
Then we have a problem. We need the Pope to tell us the meaning of the inscription.
Why? Cooperate with me and it won't be necessary.
I need to know. No matter what.
Ah, I see. That's very unfortunate. So then you mean to say...
What the?
My body!
That you reject my vision!
Sorey! Let's go!
We're leaving.
The boys are back in town.
They broke through my domain and connected with the Seraphim, if only just for a moment. Oh, will I relish this.
Ugh. Nothing like an evil cardinal. Oh, we can use an invisibility cloak. Very cool. I forgot about this ability. I'm wondering whether I'd be reading all of that commentary by the Cardinal as so evocative of, like, the Nazi rise to power in Germany if we hadn't played Symphonia before this, with all of its themes of like concentration camps and kind of just mass, I guess, eugenics and just a lot of other similar Naziist agenda. But whether or not it's because of Tales of Symphonia, very easy to read what the Cardinal is saying as that branch of nationalism.
We disappeared?
And also calls to mind just all of the Nazi quest for, like, religious artifacts to kind of reify the justification for their rule.
We've got to flee to the Knight's Tower.
Religious corruption and political corruption. So often do they meet in nationalism. And all the fascism that follows.
You go on ahead.
Okay.
The Pope fled of his own volition?
I'm sorry I couldn't get more details. We were sort of running for our lives.
No, that is more than enough. I'm just relieved that you weren't captured.
Thanks for saving us back there.
It's the least I could do.
Seraph Mikleo, my humble admiration for your bravery.
It's nothing, really.
It is nothing. All you did was blind her temporarily.
We have to do something about her domain.
Those powers might help. Let's get the Pope to decipher that inscription.
That'll be tough if we don't know where he is. The Knights have been hunting him for a year now with no success.
Yeah, but they were assuming the whole time that the Cardinal was behind the disappearance. Guess what? I think I know where Popadope might be.
Popadope!
The village of Gadadin on the southern part of the continent. We won't know for sure until we check it out, of course.
How did you get that information?
Well, let's just call it an industry secret. You know how it is.
I kill a lot of people.
Of course. I should have expected no less from the wife of the sheriff. Let us send a search team to Gadadin.
No, Sergey.
Hold on a minute. The Cardinal already expects that our side will be searching for the Pope.
A highly visible squadron of knights would essentially be a bright pink arrow pointed straight at him.
However,
we can operate covertly in small numbers. Let us handle Gadadin.
But that's far too much to ask.
Chill, Captain, we got this. What is it they say? Pope springs eternal?
Oh my god, the wordplay. I'm drowning in wordplay.
All ye who, don't go to Gadadin.
Okay, settle down.
And we get an actual Dante illusion
Shepherd.
in the game where we already had a whole
Actually,
conversation
as for what
about the
you can do in
relationship
return,
between it and
do you suppose
Inferno
we could get
in
a
a
pass to
previous stream.
Rolance? I might be mistaken for an ally of the Highland Army otherwise.
I have seen for myself the quality of your character. I shall prepare it immediately.
Thank you. That's a load off my mind.
There is something I would like to impart to you as well. Would you please step outside for a moment?
Pope had a family that passed away. That's interesting. I'll tell you, going back and working through Tales of Destiny also reinvigorated my appreciation for talking to the NPCs who populate towns in JRPGs. Because in those old school JRPGs, not only does it add flavor to the game and its story and its world, but also you oftentimes have to do that in order to advance the story and understand what's happening and where to go next. Because basically none of it is handed to you. You have to discover it every step of the way on the party's journey through the world. And I think being back in that kind of design ecosystem just gives you, a renewed appreciation for what so oftentimes, at least for me, feels more like set dressing in modern games, which is not fair to the games nor to the people who take the time to write those supporting characters and people who are essentially elements of the background. But it's like what we were talking about a few streams ago in terms of the Tales studio kind of phasing out books that you could read on the bookshelves in these games. If you don't appreciate what you have, it kind of goes away with time, which is all the sadder.
Hey, isn't this the guy from the Earth in Historia? The first captain of the Platinum Knights, General Georg Heldalf. Heldalf! And this was painted over 20 years ago.
He would definitely show up in the Earth in Historia.
So this is Heldalf.
The man, the myth, leader of the Platinum Knights, leader of malevolence. Excited to uncover more of the story of how he got from point A to point B.
Do you remember the art I used when we fought against one another? That is the Lion's Howl, an art passed down through our band of knights. I and my younger brother Boris are the only ones alive who know it. But now I pass it to you as well. Wilt thou accept?
Yes.
Hell, alright. It's the higher hidden art of Heavenly Torrent. Does that mean... So I'm going to try to do what it was walking us through in the tutorial. If we have Heavenly Torrent set, then if we just hold the button, will it automatically go into Lion's Hell? I thought that's what we were supposed to do. Maybe it won't work for this tutorial. That'd be too easy.
Well, you're a fast learner. I must apologize that this feeble art is all an oaf like me may offer you.
Don't say that. It's incredible. Thank you so much, Captain Sergei.
You and I stand as equals. You may call me Sergei.
Then you may call me Sorey.
Sorey, I am loath to believe the Pope just abandoned his post on us. But I also sense that there may be another side to this unfortunate story.
I understand. We'll find the Pope and come back with the truth.
Godspeed.
Rose, was it the scattered bones who found the information on the Pope?
Maybe. Seeing where the church's money was going gave us a little hint.
That's what I thought. You guys sure don't operate in the same way that the Knights do.
Of course not. An Assassin's Guild can't function without proper intel.
Assassins. Right.
Here is your pass, Sorey.
Thank you. Our travel should be much easier now.
I wish it were so. But we've received word that Byroclef Ridge, which leads to Gadatan, has been blocked by rock slides.
We could have been on the ridge right now. If only we'd been a little bolder. Rose! My punchline!
Oh no! A match made in hell!
What's the plan?
You'll have to go through Cambria Caverns, south of the Meadow of Triumph.
An underground passage, huh? No problem.
That's your thing, isn't it?
You bet it is.
All the easier to find ruins. Am I right? Yeah, I feel kind of bad leaving poor Sergei to deal with that crazy cardinal and her domain of malevolence. Seems a little OP. I think this is more a JRPG than a Tales thing, but I do love the way Tales does it. Like the texture of art acquisition and how like some battle abilities you'll get just by leveling up, but then many others you get under special circumstances in the story, whether that's like a training sequence with a character like Sergei, or training at an inn, as I think we saw in Tales of Symphonia, and definitely comes up in Tales of the Abyss also, or like acquiring hidden ancient texts that are related to the school of swordsmanship that a particular character uses. There's so many different ways that you can use it to make the arts feel as if they have a special place, not just in the combat system, but also in the identity of the character who learns them. Justice. Let's do it. Have we accidentally stumbled on any more cool bonus skills for Sorey? Just by tagging every single Norman we've come across onto him? God, where do we go? Is it on the... Okay, it's under equipment. Oh yeah, we got bonus skills on bonus skills. A few stacks. A lot of elemental stuff. Where's the justice one that we got? Oh, there it is. Getting kind of close to another column. If we get chain and phantom. Oh, we're really close to this one if we get block. Oh, and Speary. That's the name of the other one that we need for this column, not focus. Its effect is focus +4. Too many names to keep track of, I tells you. That's probably fine.
A Hellion! Is it one of the Cardinals' guards?
Oh, we can turn invisible now.
Sorey, we have to trick the guard into thinking we're not here somehow.
We made it!
Think we lost the Cardinal with that?
The kingdom I'm in Tales of Destiny right now is called
I sure
Aquavale.
hope so.
So it's only fitting that we've acquired a literal Aquavale in Tales of Systeria now. See, kids, everything is everything else. That's the lesson here.
I ate too much today. My stomach's all achy.
Oh my, you shouldn't stuff yourself like that, Rose.
By the way, I was curious. Can Seraphim get upset stomachs or gain weight?
To say it in a fairy tale sort of way, your thoughts become reality.
What's that supposed to mean?
We won't gain weight from consuming calories, but we will from thinking, I'll gain weight if I eat this much.
Whoa! So does that mean you'll be okay as long as you don't think like that?
No. Denying the reality of things leads to malevolence. A seraph must not be detached from reality.
So your choices are either
So at the end of it
become
all,
fat
you
or
could
become
say
a
we're the
demon.
same as humans.
This is so confusing.
It's really just a hilarious skit-couched way of saying exactly what we were talking about before, where it's like either fantasy or deep realism relative to how we actually go about our lives in the world outside video games, depending on how you look at it. That could be a fun thing to write about in a study of Tales of Symphonia too. Trying to do a better job in this stream and hopefully onwards of annotating when in the stream I come up with various article ideas, so that when I do get to writing them, and I will, hold me to that, it'll be easier to actually recover the point in the streams at which I was talking about them and thinking about them. These multimedia efforts, dude. Harder to keep track of it all than you might expect. Than I expected going into it. But all the more rewarding for adding in multiple ways of thinking about these games. Between stream and article, and who knows, maybe we'll even get a podcast here or there. And maybe even a lecture. A few of the topics that we submitted for PAX West consideration were around the Tales of Praxis series.
It's an orc armor. This Hellion used to be. I can guess, but I'd rather not know anyways. Thanks.
I'd rather not know. I mean, isn't they presumably just used to be farmers? Couldn't quite get that back and forth.
Splendid job, Sorey.
Let's keep it up.
Don't think there's battle grade in Tales of Destiny either, unless it's a hidden system. It's a big thing to unlearn after all of these graded battles.
It's around here, right? The caverns or whatever, I mean.
Cambria Caverns. He said they were south of the Meadow of Triumph.
Gotta be, well, either the dungeon or the southern field and then the dungeon. Looks like the dungeon is closer, so we can pop in there and see if that's the right way. Or else sally forth. It's funny, the weather in my real world in Colorado has finally cleared up a bit. It's sunny as opposed to the gray and stormy days that we've been getting. But with all of the cloudiness and raininess in Tales of Symphonia, I feel like I'm right back in that cozy hunker down and stay in mindset. It's not a bad mindset, I don't hate it. I oftentimes would rather a drizzly, rainy day than a sunny, super hot day. Alright, Cambria Caverns. Got it in one.
Do you really think we can get through this way?
Don't worry.
You sound pretty confident. Is it just a hunch?
No. I can feel the wind.
That is a pretty good and logical perk of being a wind seraph.
There's nothing in the universe cooler than a secret passageway.
Especially one underground.
Totally! A maze of twisty little passages with exits galore to who knows where!
Like the back of a waterfall, or the bottom of an old abandoned well.
Yes! Mikleo gets it!
Glad someone gets it, because I don't.
I don't want to get it.
Boys just love things like this. In this case, I don't know about boys so much as...
Children, right?
Come on. The hidden secret behind a waterfall never goes out of style, as Tears of the Kingdom has reminded us most recently. Man, it is such a boon, no pun intended, to be able to see the whole map of a dungeon right when you get into it for the first time, without even navigating it. And a relative rarity nowadays, I feel like. I feel oftentimes you need to explore an area before you're able to see the whole thing. Alright, so it looks like we want to wrap to our left, and then the left from there will dead end, but there's probably something at the end of that passageway. If I know my Tales game design.
Stand strong!
What a wishy-washy, wimpish wussy.
Quit it with the wordplay and just fight already.
It can call for help, so we should defeat it first.
But Lila, they're all it. How do we prioritize which it? That's interesting, so it looked like our attack sped up his casting, but then we stunned him, which canceled the casting. Boy, combat systems sure are multifaceted.
What a formidable opponent!
Yeah, that was a squeaker. Well, I'll tell you one thing that was also hard to back adapt to in Tales of Destiny this weekend after playing a lot of these more modern games. It's just the like the random encounters in old school dungeons where there's no like sprite representing an enemy on the map, like the kind you see here, but instead you're just wandering around and just it'll randomly cut to a battle at a pretty frequent interval you have very little control over. And man, like the amount of anxiety that induced for me of just never knowing when it was going to pop, and also of it being so frequent as to like interrupt the puzzle solving or navigation. Like I got lost and disoriented much more frequently in dungeons than I expected as a result of that. But after a while, I think one does kind of get accustomed to it and just give into the grindiness of it as an almost methodical and kind of centering experience. Especially in a game like a JRPG where so much of it is about the character's development, not just in terms of their narrative arc, but also in terms of their becoming like technically capable of overcoming whatever the monster at the end of the book is. I think from what I've seen of Tales of Destiny so far, it does a really good job of leaning into that sort of storytelling, which is something video games are obviously pretty uniquely suited for.
Ready for this?
Searching courage! Tiger Blade! How's this? Yeah! Tiger Blade! It's time! Howling Blade! Full damage! Hang on, everyone!
Pretty cool. Probably overkill, but pretty cool.
It's over! Strike! Everyone okay? We can't hold
One right after the other.
Armored centipedes take a low stance when they go for an attack, meaning we should attack when it takes that low position.
Dragon Bag! It's over! Earthborn!
I'm gonna attack from a distance.
Iron! Hang on, everyone! Ready? Go! Raging Giant! Hang on, everyone! Right!
Where that burst starter, whatever it's called, takes a while to go off in Deadness or Modus.
Sorey, how long have you known Dazzle?
Huh? About as long as you, I guess.
You don't sound too sure. Did you just meet him recently?
Well, I guess. Kind of recently.
I can't stand to watch this, but I'm not sure I want to join in.
I mean, do I say that I met him back when he was possessing you? I could just make things so awkward. Oh no! Where's that purple star on the map? What a long and winding road. Hope we can get there. I'm sure we'll run into it.
Okay, here goes!
Tiger Blade! That's what the shepherd can do.
Sweets are so good, especially after a battle.
That's when you know you've really earned them.
Is everyone ready?
Tiger Blade! Dragon Bag! Tiger Blade!
We won't lose to you!
Oh, okay. I thought this was the way I came for a second. It all looks a mite too samey. Oh no! Every time I think we're on solid ground. I guess I should briefly see with all of this new swag we're collecting. If we can beef anyone up. Trying to see if I can get one of those sick column bonuses for Rose. Come on. Show me what you've got. Ha! Hey, big shooter. A G-Union. That's what they're called. I think that's the one we got. I think we got the... Yeah, all stats plus 20. See, so like, I do see the draw of how cool and rewarding that feels and how significant an impact it is when you do get one. But, man, like once you go down the rabbit hole of actually trying to optimize each piece of equipment for having the right skills to really do insane stacks, as opposed to just jerry-rigging one of them like we did with Rose in the last, 45 seconds or whatever, it can quickly become overwhelming, let's say. But I'll try a few more here. Oh yeah, look at that. We can actually get that G-Union for a lot of them without much effort. That's cool. Wonder if we can get it for Sorey. Ooh, we can get him that one. That's something. Oh, we can get... Oh, but then we would be stealing it from Rose if we did it that way. I gotta be careful. We'll spend the rest of the stream here if I don't modulate myself. So the G-Union one is Assassin, which gains HP when you're doing a quick step. So we really have to be quick on our feet. Oh, we can try that. I wanted to see if I mess with any of Sorey's other ones. Can we get 2 G-Unions? Because that would be so cool. Oh, 2 G-Unions! But that would require stealing from Mikleo. I don't really want to do that. What else? Nah, I'm going to do it. Let's steal that from Mikleo. Can we get Mikleo something else? Oh, he still has it. Cool. Alright. What about Lila? Can we get her some good news stuff? Her skills are kind of all over the place. Not especially useful. That just boosts up her raw stats, which I kind of like. Alright, looks like we might be able to get something going in the fourth column here. Oh, that's Edna's. I want to take that from Edna. See, we're also running into the problem now where all the cool pieces of equipment that have a bunch of skills that just happen to fall in nice places on the grid have already been equipped by other people. I don't want to take that away from other people. That seems good. Okay, let's say that's good. We're almost done. I'll just go through all of them once and then we'll call it good for the moment. Yeah. We're so close to being able to get Edna the G Union. That's alright. Oh, no, I wanted to do Dazzle. Melancholic Din. What a name. Okay, maybe we can get one of the cool horizontal ones going. Yeah, that seems like something. Ah, that was a total misclick. Shows. That's the one we were looking at. Oh, no, Rose has that one. I think there was another one with that skill, though. Nope, literally just roses. That's annoying. Okay. We can do that. And then what bonus skills does he get? Art attack +8. Oh no, reduced stagger time and reduced burn. Oh, that's something. And then I wanted to just do a quick pass for their titles also. I think as long as we just make sure that none of them are maxed out, so that way they can still be building title proficiency. That's good enough for me right now. All right. Well, I wasn't watching the clock, but hopefully that wasn't too long a sidebar to the stream. We'll have to be the judge now of whether it really makes a radical difference in our ability to navigate battles. But kind of satisfying to get a bit of skill synergy and to feel like we're taking advantage of the combat systems a little bit more than we had been so far. Alright, where are we? Oh, I guess we can't make that far of a jump. Let's probably do it this way. Oh my god, not again. That's just rude. One more time. I don't totally understand why the UI still has question marks at these places where we can use the field skills once we've learned the appropriate field skill. Like, you'd think it would represent that, yeah, this is a place where we can use the wind dash, and we understand that because we know how to use wind dash, and we understand that this is a like an apt place for that skill to be deployed. For it to still be question marks is kind of disorienting in my head. I was gonna fight that fella, but he flew right over our heads.
Don't underestimate me.
The ruins are calling me.
It sounded like Duzzle's incantation for that one spell he cast was, "I'll skin you alive." Which, I guess that's in keeping with his character. That just strikes my ear as especially brutal for a Tales game. At least a pre-Berseria Tales game. Without giving anything away for that wonderful prequel we'll be probing after this. And that sound cue for when the wraiths show up is really something.
We can't afford to hold back. Let's do this. Let's get it. Prepare yourself. Yeah. Ready? Back off. It's over. Ready? Get out of this. Come on. Do it. Not yet.
I showed them.
I can't tell whether battles have become that much more manageable, but I do note that we got a positive 17-point grade for that last battle, which is ordinarily unheard of for me in these battle sequences. So maybe at least part of that is due to the skill optimizing that we just did.
Well, I had a lot of practice with Miklia.
Is everyone ready?
Yeah! It's time! Howling Blade! Full Tempest! Not yet! Tiger Blade! Howling Deluge! Yeah! Ready? It's over! Get on! It's over!
It's tough to have to choose between using those blast gauges for Mystic Arts or Armatization, but it's a nice kind of hard choice because they're both just so cool and powerful. Some embarrassment of riches when it comes to the optionality you have for turning the tide to one of these battles.
Everyone okay?
And we got upgrades all over the place. Thanks, Sorey learned a new art. Okay, so if I go back to... This is a higher art of Shatterfang. Alright, and Lion's Howl is a higher art of Heavenly Torrent. So I want to try to go back to these and see if I can do the like automatic progression of the base hidden art into the higher one that they were talking about in that one tutorial. So let's make a note to try that in the next battle.
This place was in the Celestial Record.
What was in the Celestial Record? Oh, that's the climb prompt. Maybe it's up above. Maybe just the monolith?
I can sense the ancient tongue. We're near one.
Alright, let's try this. I'm gonna have to reread that tutorial we got, so I don't think I'm doing it right. To move from like Heavenly Torrent to Lion's Howl or something like that.
Indeed, that's the end of it.
Alright, let's look at that again. Battle and game systems. I guess it would be the bot. Does it really not sort by the order in which we got these? No, that'd be too easy. Oh, here we go. It's like a sub-page of hidden arts. I guess that's fairly intuitive. Okay, so after starting a hidden art, hold down X to continue into a higher art. That's what I was trying to do. Maybe you start the hidden art and then you like interrupt it by holding X to transition into the higher one. It must be a timing thing. We can try it again in the next battle. Oh, there are skills for the blast gauge. I feel like that's the skill group I could really get behind. See, that's the other part of the skill grid. I feel like it's so complicated, I just kind of get turned off from it by focusing on the wrong skills. Like, so many of them I feel like revolve around elemental stuff or status effect stuff in ways that don't really draw my interest, but something like improving the blast gauge, that's something I can get behind. Maybe I just need to read the skill grid more closely at some point. I'm just gonna give up and try to make those higher arts happen right now. I don't feel like I'm doing it right.
I can't believe there's...
Gotta get that purple star. Hoping it's another iris gem. I want more secret windows into Heldalf's past.
Don't underestimate your
Current! Yeah! Dragon Fang! It's over! No escape! Sword flare! I won't lose! Tiger Blade! Tiger Blade! Lunar Streak! Not yet! Hang on, everyone! Say kill! Spray going through!
I'm not done yet. Play first.
Spray going through! I was clearly the star of that battle.
It's easiest to notice the dimmer stars when they shine, they say.
Brutal. I want to steal half of Edna's quips and repurpose them as sick
isn't
burns
that
in
the
my
Earth
own
in
real
Historia?
life. Alright, worth a side adventure. Let's see what there is to see. The Rolance general is apparently demoted. Was his army defeated in battle? Looks like Heldalf. Doesn't look like people loved him.
So I guess that means that general guy was exiled? From the army? From his country?
Maybe he lost a war? Just a thought.
Once there'd been huge crowds cheering for him. And now...
It makes me wonder, there was no one at all he could turn to?
That's par for the course for humans. Quite surprising. A shepherd in an age like this.
I think you've surprised us.
My name is Sorey, and you are?
I am Syndra, Shepherd Sorey. Are you the Seraph of Lastenbell? I once was, yes.
Can we ask you to give your blessing again?
We found her without
There's
even
no
seeking
seraph
her out.
enshrined at the sanctuary
I
in
love it.
Lastenbell, and strange things are happening.
That's of no relation to blessings.
How can you be sure?
Because I have used the bells in the belfry as my vessel.
I see. So the sanctuary in Lastenbell is nothing more than a figurehead.
In any case, it is no longer my concern. I no longer have the capacity to understand humans. Please, leave me be. May we ask you what happened? I'm sorry.
Good talk.
We can't force her to talk.
But something's up. We should do some research.
You're right. Let's go ask people in Lastenbell. They may know something.
Got it. So running into her must have been the next step in the whole side plot of rectifying things in Lastenbell, which we were missing before. So I'll bet if we were to travel back to Lastenbell now, we'd have some new conversations to have. Maybe once we're through this dungeon, we can spend a little time there.
Tiger Blade! It's over! Burn! Use rock aim and fly! Hang on, everyone! Break on through! Set zero! Here it goes! Aim and fire! Blistering bang! Right! Aim and fire!
Retreat for now. Release the Rhapsody.
Burst! Ocean Blade! Spirit Elixir Bidet! Ocean Blade! Break on through! Let's give it up!
Hellions out there.
So we have the nice point-counterpoint of Heldalf seemingly so far having been like corrupted, at least in part, as a result of his isolation from community, whereas Sorey is kind of being
There should be a
empowered
vista point nearby.
and given the opportunity to grow into his own as a pure shepherd, in part by the support of community, not just the Seraphim community he has around him, but also the human support and witness that Rose serves as. And Lila before her, to be sure. Tiny luminescent organisms. Oh yeah, on the cave walls. Very cool.
Wow. Indeed. It's mesmerizing how the lake's surface sparkles.
Bioluminescence, do you think?
Dezel?
Don't ask me. I can't see it.
So even you have some gaps in your animal knowledge.
I've heard of organisms too small to be seen that give off light in the dark. Maybe this is their habitat.
Whoa, thousands and thousands of tiny creatures.
But each one lives only a few days before winking out.
Only a few days? But they shine so bright.
Bioluminescence.
Oh,
Oh,
it's a
that was
sad
inappropriate.
pun.
I'm sorry.
Don't be. Better than ending on a sour note.
Oh, a left field success from Lila.
My first one, it feels like. I suppose it took going deep underground for Edna to finally... cave.
And I take it back.
The rare, sparkling Lila. Note its brief lifespan.
Even you, Dezel? Aww.
Because we've been talking in Tales of Symphonia about the keen sense of humor that this and some of the later games have. I want to say, well, it's definitely true, as evidenced by that last skit. I was kind of delightfully surprised by what I hadn't expected as the earlier games in the series, having maybe not the same type of sense of humor, but definitely a keen sense of humor all their own. Like Tales of Destiny, I talked about those sentient swords, the Swordians, and like the whole premise of one of them, for instance, is he's like this dirty old man spirit living inside the sword, where like he wants to be awakened and used in the quest to save the world, but he'll only allow himself to be awakened and wielded by like a pretty young maiden. And that's a pretty funny conceit for a character in a JRPG, let alone a sword. So not the same type of humor as Lila punning all over the place, but something kind of similar in terms of its overall approach. Okay, so I guess that was just one big roundabout secondary path to get that Earth in Historia, it seems like, if I'm reading the map right. So we want to go in the totally opposite direction in order to get to Gadodin. That is okay by me. Would cure paralysis. Guess that was wishful thinking.
are calling me.
Ah, you can't hide from me. Tempest. See, I wish they could show us the skill grids while we were adding new skills to characters' equipment. As it stands, I'll just have to guess.
I think we're close to the exit. Probably.
Did you feel it too?
The wind? I think I kind of did.
Hell yeah, we're home free! Praise the sun!
Yeah. Dark
It
Souls would
looks
like to
I
know your
spoke too
location.
soon. A Hellion!
Really? What is it doing in a place like this?
Is it bird or beast?
Yeah, the last thing we need is a bunch of flocking griffins. Rose, a nice young lady really shouldn't... come on. I didn't mean it like that.
Choose your birds more carefully.
Aiming fire! Blistering fangs!
I think I even got that one. I feel like every ninth joke in Zisteria goes over my head. Not sure why that is.
Blue flame! Burst! Ocean blade! Break on through! Blue flame!
Vermilion Pistol Burning Shot!
Sure, I said this last time, but there is a pretty cool kind of magic to just the tag team of two armatized warriors fighting side by side on the battlefield, and that's the whole team. I can appreciate the magic of that kind of system for sure. Perfect time to restore the party, I guess. Alright, I think we're good now.
Burst! Breakdown! Azure assault! Tiger blade! Strike! House witch! Ready? Strike! House witch! Ready? Nose witch! Throw and surge! No!
Oh, mamma mia. That was formidable. We powered through. kinds of goodies.
You are not ready to command the wind yet.
I hate the wind. Huh?
Edna!
You alright?
I just slipped is all.
Dangers of traveling with
Boy,
a parasol,
we
I
can't
guess.
take Lady Edna anywhere, can we?
Lady Meebo is talking.
Alright, a whole new map. How can we not burn these? Frustrating. Oh, we can cut them, that's right. So where are we headed here? Looks like we want to wrap around and head west. Can do.
Let's do this! How we do that? Let's keep it up! That's what the shepherd can do! Looks way fun! Fun? That's a Hellion, you know.
It shoots stuff out from its artillery, so be careful.
It's kind of weird to wrap your head around. So Rose was the one who was giving kind of the Pokédex equivalent information on how this Hellion operates. But Rose also, like she was talking about earlier in the stream, is only just now like seeing Hellions for the first time after having partnered with the shepherd, right? So where would she have gotten that knowledge about the like behavioral patterns of these Hellions from? That she could tell the party about them? Doesn't quite hit my logic centers in the way I'd hope it would.
Looks like there's something nearby.
Sidekick mask. Totally worth it. Ooh, the discovery point. That is worth it.
What kind of bird is this?
A griffkite. It's a bird in the kite family.
There's another one over there too. Very high up.
Yeah, they're excellent at reading the wind.
Look at it soar. Swift and free.
Yeah. Through a sky clouded with malevolence wrought by Earth dwellers.
You don't suppose the griffin started out once as a griffkite?
Perhaps.
Malevolence deforms everything. People and nature alike. But malevolence can be cleansed.
Through Sorey, you mean?
Through all of us. That's all.
Oh. That was a pretty touching and kind of like almost literary, figurative way of talking about Dezel's whole plight with, you know, being a wind spirit who's been sort of pulled down to earth and corrupted by the threat of malevolence for wanting revenge over the sins that someone else committed against him and his people, without ever directly saying any of that. Because the griff kites fall to a griffin, but the possibility of redemption is very clearly a stand-in and metaphor for Dezel and everything that he's wrestling with. And the fact that we can already feel so much kind of pathos behind that, even for having just met Dezel and not knowing him that well yet, I think really speaks to the deftness of the character writing. Wow. Some of these tutorials really put me on blast.
Ready for this?
Tiger Blade! It's over! I will slide evil! Tiger Blade!
Alright, since I can't get the transition from hidden arts to higher hidden arts to work, I think I'm just going to replace some of them with the new ones that we've learned. So we can at least put those higher arts to use. Those are the only new ones we learned. Felt like we got something else. Looks like that covers it. Alright, let's do it.
Not really weak, but not strong.
Right in that uncanny valley. Looks like we made it.
Outsiders! Hey, didn't they say in school not to use that word? Oh, oops. Hello.
Hello there.
I wonder
Is
if
this
that was
new looking building
gaijin
your
in the
school?
original Japanese.
That's right. The village
Like the
chief
Japanese
built it.
slur for outsiders who don't really
Future of
belong.
the village.
A school.
It's a bit plain compared to the rest of the town, don't you think?
Are you kidding? We didn't have anything like this in my village.
We always did want one, though.
I'm Slenge, the chief of this village. What brings you two all the way out to our tiny corner of the continent?
Oh, well, we're looking for...
We're here for work, researching what people eat out on the frontier. Stuff like that.
Your efforts are very much appreciated. Thankfully, our village has been spared the ravages of famine.
In fact, it's even more bountiful than in years past.
And we have the chief to thank for it. If there's anything we can help you with, don't hesitate to ask.
Where is
You
the
say
Pope?
that like you own the place.
Seems like a nice village.
Sort of reminds me of Alicia.
Sorey.
I know. We'll split up and try and find some clues about the Pope.
And split up they did.
What's that?
School in Gadon. Love it. The points of interest are a nice way to just pay a little closer attention to the environment and then stop and appreciate a particular aspect of it. I like that way of pulling things out in this larger world so you don't kind of feel overwhelmed by it, or like your eyes just glaze over and you don't really appreciate the little details.
What's wrong, Edna?
Nothing. Just thinking about how Meebo insulted me earlier.
Oh, I see.
Anyway, it looks like there's some kind of ruin in the back of the village, and it's a pretty darn old one to boot.
How old do you think?
It's probably from before the Dark Period. It might be even older than I am.
You don't mean from the Temperance of Averost? If that's true, then this is an incredible find! Wait, Hey, Edna? How old are...
What?
Never mind.
Rude. One never asks a seraph its age, her age, their age. Just don't ask about age. Doesn't end well. You know, I ruled the day once. Didn't get much else done. I feel like there's just enough conversational discussion also of all the different like ages of world history in Zestiria that I really want to be able to see a timeline of how all these different ages are related to one another and like came to pass and came to ebb and flow throughout the evolution of the world. I don't think they're ever that specific about how they all tie together. Like the Temperance of Avarost, for instance. What a provocative name, but I don't think we get a lot of insight in terms of how it relates to the Age of Chaos or the Dark Period or whatever it was that Edna was talking about. Alright, Feather. Make my day. Ooh, something that improves blast gauge performance with evasion, which was also tied to the G Union that we got, Sorey. Was evasion based. That's synergy, right? Yeah, we're doing synergy. How are we doing with the skills? Have we gotten anything else cool? Okay, so this is the blast gauge column, I guess. So there's none here, but if we get one door and tension, we should get some nice blast gauge perks. Although I don't know how many open skill slots we have left. Oh yeah, see, this is the danger. We're quickly running out. Yeah, there's just one slot left, so we'd have to change up our whole layout. Can think more about that later. One obstacle at a time. Ooh, another Norman. Tension! That was one of the other, yeah, blast gauge ones. Speak of the devil. It'll appear. Alright. So now I think we're so close to getting that G Union for Sorey. But I think he's out of slots. Wait, what? Oh no, you know what I did? I think he already had tension, maybe? No. I was looking at the wrong column in the little mini skill slot. Yeah, so we're just missing one door. Things are getting complicated, folks.
What's wrong? You look troubled. It's strange. This village seems rather prosperous. And that's a problem? The issue is why. Their source of income. Right. The land in this area is infertile and hardly fit for farming or hunting. It's far from any major thoroughfare, and they have no local products to export. Isn't that weird? You'd think a place like this would be the first to fall victim to famine. There must be some explanation for all this.
And it's probably not a malicious explanation at all. Is that another Norman up there? No, that's just a kid. Having two of the blast gauge Normans just hanging out over here makes me inclined to believe that the last one I was thinking about is also probably hiding in this town. Well, we can just keep an eye out.
Gadadin sure seems like a happy village.
Indeed, everyone here is so positive and active.
They're all like family here.
But I still can't feel the blessing of the Seraphim.
True. The Guardian Seraph is missing. It seems that this place used to be rather barren, but it looks like the current chief was able to overcome these issues.
I can tell the people here respect him a whole lot.
I imagine they do. This would normally be such a desolate environment.
Yeah, not just anyone could pull that one off.
Rose, is something the matter?
Sorry, I was just thinking out loud. I'll tell you more once I've had time to investigate.
It's also kind of cool to think about the way Rose, contrary to a lot of JRPG supporting team members, as we've seen in this stream, routinely goes off on her own, even after having joined up with Sorey. Like, she very much retains her sense of agency and her own way of going about things that, you know, even if she's working towards the same ends as the Shepherd, don't always coincide exactly with how he's going about it.
There's a ruin!
You know,
Wait.
what he's pursuing at any given moment.
You think they came here to apprehend
Probably
the
feeds
chief?
into what we were talking about earlier in
better
terms
not.
of the two of them
Without our
serving
chief
complementary
Gadadin is
roles.
There's no cause for worry yet. As long as they stay out of the Pure Land, we'll be all right.
Malevolence!
Let's go.
It's always what it comes
There
down
was
to.
malevolence coming from the chief. Why?
I bet we'll find the answer inside that ruin.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a bummer. I think I missed the window to talk to Dazzle. I really hope we get to see this Turtles questline through. Oh, I want to sleep at the inn before we go on. Get those sweet cooking perks and see if there's a scene to be had.
Is there
Awesome.
any sort of rhyme or reason to what happens when you fuse equipment?
Great question, Rose.
Oh,
You're
thank
right.
God, a
There's
tutorial
nothing
skit.
random in the fusion of equipment.
Can you just tell it to me short and simple before I fall asleep?
Sure. First, the rules for fusing two different equipment skills only apply to those located in the same slot.
So it actually does matter which slot each skill is positioned at.
Yes, what skill is placed in which slot is a very important factor in equipment fusion.
So it's important to...
Well, it's... Huh? Are you asleep?
Can you blame her? Okay, and we're off. Not that way.
Building a school to preserve the village's future. I have to respect that.
A school, huh? Always wished I could have gone to one.
Yeah, me too.
You too, Rose?
I grew up on the road. The older folks of the Scattered Bones were like my teachers. He may not look it, but Roche is actually super good at calligraphy, and he knows a ton about literature.
Huh. Igil looks like he's no slouch either.
Yeah, he was the one who drilled me in martial arts and stealth skills. You might say he's my
This is
gym
a sweet
teacher.
tableau.
Well, that's...
One way to get kids their exercise.
Same with me and Mikleo. Pretty much everyone in Elysia wound up serving as our teachers.
Reminds me of Gramps' etiquette class. He was really strict.
And that's how Mikleo got the way he is today.
Whereas you didn't learn a thing, huh?
Hey, that's not true.
Yeah, right. You were always reading the Celestial Record.
You did the same thing.
Yes, but I read it to enhance my history and classical language studies.
And you're saying I didn't?
So, pretty much the same things you do now.
Fair enough. So yeah, we weren't lonely per se,
cute.
but...
It would have been nice to study and play with other kids our age.
Little Sorey and little Mikleo.
I feel you.
I liked that skit. Oh, I thought that's where we were supposed to go. No, I guess we're supposed to wrap around. Oh, I guess we were supposed to go that way that was blocked off. Alright, third time's the charm.
A destroyed entrance, huh?
Well, that looks hopeless.
Oh, does it now?
Edna, you could use your powers.
Give it a try.
I certainly might. If you were to ask like so. Lady Edna, please do something about these rocks.
This is no time to be joking around.
Mikleo can't take Lady Edna anywhere, can he?
Oh, are you still hung up on that?
Girl cannot let things go.
Lady Edna, I beg you to move these rocks, which I, the pitiful Meebo, cannot.
Hey, that's longer.
Well, I charge interest.
Edna, I think that's enough teasing for now.
We need you to do something about these rocks, Edna. Please help us.
I didn't mean you.
Maybe not. But I'm as guilty as anyone here of taking you and your powers for granted.
Sorey is literally too pure for this world.
From that very mentality. Gratitude is vital in all actions, whether you're worshipping the Seraphim or simply journeying with friends.
Seriously, it's fine. I'll give you my ability, the giant strength.
FYI, Sorey doesn't get jokes.
Nice. I'll try breaking down these rocks that the meek and pitiful Meebo couldn't.
Not you too!
He really doesn't get jokes.
What mighty power!
Oh.
It's funny how long it takes between Edna joining you and getting access to her power.
You got that right.
An interesting kind of gameplay way of showing how you have to build trust with her over time.
Elixir?
It's fake. But my body feels oddly warm.
That's because it's packed with energy drink garbage.
It's literally just a Red Bull subplot.
Make one sale and we'll race back for more. Pretty devious.
They're pretending Red Bull is holy water.
Is this stuff being sold officially under the authority of the church? The certificate carries the authentic stamp of the Church of Rolance, but it looks like the sales profits are all going to this village.
So that's what you meant about tracking the flow of money.
If there's someone in Gadaden who can create an official certificate...
It has to be the missing Pope!
That explains the village's mystery funds.
And the malevolence from the chief.
So they're either conspirators or
the chief is the Pope.
You! What are you doing in here?
That has to be...
Chief? That's like, I want to, this is the kind of game that makes me want to do real world history research, because it's got me thinking about the parallel between this selling and profiteering off of fake elixirs and the profiteering that I think happened in the Middle Ages when the church sold like fake, or maybe not the church, but like affiliates of the church sold fake indulgences, I think, like the blessing slip economy that like let people basically buy their way out of their sins of certain varieties. Because I wonder if that was kind of contemporaneous with King Arthur. Like, were there any Arthur stories that related to that? Do we have more kind of like play into intertextuality between like the history of the world and the literature that was being created then, and then the like the history and the mythos that this game is borrowing from and creating its own storytelling. It's cool. There's a lot more there than I remember from my first time playing this.
Could it really be?
The chief?
It's not often you see a seraph using a staff like a club.
I mastered it while practicing with Sorey.
It's got the reach you'd need to win, since he's taller.
That's not the reason why.
But the height.
That's not it.
It was the reason why.
It's not the chief?
So you are here to capture the chief. I knew it! I'll die before I allow that.
Enough! What is the meaning of this?
Are you Pope Macedra?
Almost definitely.
I see you've done your homework.
What would drive you to do such a thing?
I would ask the same. I never desired the title of Pope. So then, why must I continue to perform its functions? I originally joined the Holy Order in order to give a small blessing, a glimmer of hope, to my family and those around me. But that is all.
But there are so many who cherish you. Sergei and the rest of the knights, and...
I know that! That's why I worked so hard. I did all I could. I toiled for years and years, with no self-regard, for the sake of everyone. And then... I took a look around me, and there was no trace of my family left behind. They had scorned me as a man with no regard for his household. What was it all for? What fruits had I to show for my endless labors?
Were you involved with the war against Highland?
I abandoned everything. The war, my country, even my people. At that point, I was beyond all caring. I fled into the forest to meet my death, but these folks rescued me. The good and gentle people of Gododin asked nothing of me, content merely to treat me as if I were one of their own family.
And so naturally he wanted to give something back to the village.
Even if it meant dealing fake elixir.
I care for neither the Empire nor the Church. Call me a coward if you like, but now I live for the sake of... my family, the villagers.
Your family?
I can sympathize with him for sure, but nevertheless, we need to bring him back.
We can't get the spiritual powers without deciphering the inscription. And the Cardinal is too much to handle for the knights alone.
But, on the other hand, without the protection and leadership of the chief, what will become of Gododin?
The same could be said for Pendrago. You see the problem?
It was him running away that caused this mess. Why should he get a free pass?
There's gotta be a way around this. Maybe he could crack the code for us and head right back here?
But you know what the knights in the church are like right now.
You think they just let him walk away?
Chief!
Are you okay?
That can't be good. This is interesting because as the Pope was talking about kind of his own history and the party was deliberating like what the right thing to do was, initially I was thinking like, okay, well, this is, interesting and kind of what you'd expect because it's a game all about duty, and now we're getting into like the middle stage of the game where things become a little more complicated and nuanced. So of course a really obvious direction to go there is from like a sense of duty to like a sense of competing duties from different communities. Yeah, that's right, Rinling, yo. He got high on his own supply too much and his heart just properly stopped. Listen, You can't have a Red Bull habit without your heart skipping a few beats at least a few times. I remember, and I'll get back to the thought that I was having, but I think it was last year I did like a much needed detox from caffeine, not just coffee, but also like energy drinks, which I was really lousy on for a while. And then I was lecturing about Elden Ring at PAX East that year, right after it came out. And I got back into my like pre-lecture ritual because I think just coming out of like undergrad and having bad habits around caffeine, then I kind of built this habit before big talks I was going to give, where I would have like, like a big, like the biggest size Starbucks has of their cold brew, and like at least one Red Bull, and maybe like a stimulant heavy like pre-workout and water, like all at once, to kind of try to get like the perfect balance of way too many stimulants in my body. And going up on stage to talk about Elden Ring and having pumped my body full of that after I had like heavily detoxed from it, I think literally like my heart skipped a beat, and I had to stop on stage before I started. I was like, oh, is this like, am I gonna wake up in the hospital in a second? So that's I don't, what's the lesson from that story? Don't make fake black market elixir. That's the lesson from that. But what I was saying about that scene and like competing senses of duty too, right? Is like, it's an obvious thing to think about in terms of like where the JRPG story is at this point, to think of it as like the pull of competing duties. But then I almost found myself taking a step back from it and asking like, well, is this even really like that challenging a problem from the perspective of the shepherd and his party? Because like they seem to be wrestling over, well, what's the right thing to do for the Pope, given that he has ties to this community now, and if we take it away, will the community like suffer? But it's almost like, I feel like it's the opposite side of the coin that Lila and the other Seraphim already took a really hard line on when it came to Sorey interfering with war between Rolance and Highland, where they were like, yeah, humans are going to fight for their different interests, but the whole point of the shepherd is to not get involved in that, so that he can end up figuring out a way to like redeem humanity almost like as a concept, rather than redeeming or helping any like individual subset of humans. And so I feel like if that's really the ethos of the shepherd and what he's trying to do, which seems right in terms of how the role has been represented so far, then this is like a non-issue what's happening with the Pope, because the right answer is that like the shepherd's journey is something separate from and with priority relative to human affairs. And so that like trumps all other considerations in terms of what community the Pope serves or whatever. Like if the Pope is able to decipher this thing that is like a prerequisite to the shepherd being able to go through this trial and ultimately defeat the Lord of Calamity, like that is the only consideration that matters in terms of what the Pope should do or what the shepherd would have the Pope do, right? So I feel like, I don't know if that's intentional on the game's part or not. It'll be interesting to like keep a beat on that as we go on, but I think it's funny that the story as it's been told so far has almost kind of boxed itself into a corner with what it's trying to present as a problem now, not actually being a problem by the lights of the game's own story. But enough about that. Let's check on this guy so we can strong arm him into helping the shepherd. I hope so. Yeah, it would be great if another character brought it up or called it out. I do, like, from what I can remember of my first time playing through the game, which was years ago at this point, but I do remember kind of the notion of the shepherd's duty and quest and like his relationship with the people in the world becoming kind of more complicated and interesting as the game pushes into its later segments here. So I'm excited to kind of reprobe that quest, because I have only very faint memories of it at this point. Villagers all love him.
There's no cause for alarm. My need here is finished.
Everyone, please calm yourselves. Worry not, we are safe. The man standing before you is the real shepherd. Shepherd, there's something
The little
I dearly
girl's
hope you
expression of
understand.
shock.
The villagers
I
bear
love it.
none of the blame here. This was all my doing.
I just wanted to know the truth. That's all. So I'm leaving, as of now. Is that okay?
I'm not sure. But what I do know is that you seem to trust this fellow. And that's enough for me.
Rose.
Some things in the world come down to more than just black and white.
I am sure Sergei and the Knights will understand as well.
But the real issue is, how are we going to get through the Cardinals' domain?
Yeah, that. I wonder if we can crack it.
The inscription's code?
What, ourselves?
It's not that crazy, is it? It's a man-made puzzle after all. Might even be fun.
That may be, but we better at least ask this guy for a hint or two.
Shepherd, if you don't mind, please follow me.
I remember this place was in the Celestial Record. It looks like something was dug up here.
This red stone, maybe?
Vermilion ore, you mean?
Come again?
It's a rare type of mineral. It's a crystallization of nutrients in the earth, often used as medicine. But
I've read about this stuff. Some of its elements are highly toxic, so it can be tricky to handle.
Right! This is what they're using to make the fake elixir.
Cool little corner illustration of crystals and cool little extra insight into explaining the subplot of the elixirs. I love that. It looks like, I think Lila's crest, if I remember correctly.
What is this?
The shepherd is granted 4 powers: earth, water, fire, and wind. They are the blade that shall cleave the Lord of Calamity. Scattered across this land are the shrines of trials. They too are of earth, water, fire, and wind. Tests they are of power and spirit. The power is brought forth in the spirit, and the spirit captures the power. With balance may malevolence be purified. With imbalance does the body smolder and burn.
Like the balance between spirit
Test
and vessel,
thyself,
similar to
shepherd,
what we have
and
with the
brandish thy
seraphim
might.
and their
Rise to the
human vessels.
challenge and stake thy will on the outcome.
The sacred inscription.
He had it memorized?
Not bad. Even if it's still gibberish.
What he
Oh,
means
come on.
is...
We can obtain 4 different powers in 4 different places, and for each one you have to pass a trial, I think.
What he said.
Got it. So we just have to find those places.
Yeah, or... Don't tell me this is one of them.
Indeed it is, shepherd. This is Igraine, the shrine of the trial of fire.
There you
May
go.
we enter?
It is Lila's symbol.
Funny time to start asking permission, I guess.
The shrine of the trial is rife with danger. I cannot guarantee your survival. Will you still go?
Of course, hidden powers in a secret shrine? I'm there.
Then go forth, young shepherd, and face your trial. This place exists for you.
It's interesting too, because especially with the trial of fire right here, it almost raises the question of the possible interpretation. Like, was that whole side adventure with the Pope and the fake elixir and sort of challenging the Pope's relationship to his duty to the town and what's important to him, like, was that all sort of part of the trial of fire in terms of like testing Sorey's mettle in terms of like what matters when it comes to humans being pure and avoiding malevolence. I feel like that whole sequence we went through in the town could be thought of as a sort of like preamble to the trial in some ways.
Giant
Which would then
strength,
maybe explain why the
I
Pope
hate to
felt
admit
like,
it,
oh, this
but
is the
Earth
true
Seraphim
shepherd,
sure
as he
are
said,
powerful.
and led him to the shrine after that.
Ouch! After using giant strength, my body gets all kinds of sore. Can you just try not to touch me?
Oh, sorry.
As you can see, I have a slender build, so by nature, I can't really hold anything heavier than an umbrella. I'm the most ladylike lady that ever ladied, you know.
Well, whatever.
Couldn't
But
have said it
does
better
make
myself.
sense that using such great power has a trade-off somewhere.
Just don't tell Sorey about it. I don't want him to get all worried about me.
Yeah, that's probably for the best.
And just so we're clear, it doesn't mean that it's okay to touch me whenever I'm not using my powers. Got it?
Yeah, I know.
Boundaries are important. As told by Edna, the ancient seraph. All right, friends. Well, I think at the threshold of the proper and official trial of fire is as good a place as any to call it for this evening. We confronted a cardinal, learned a lot more about the negative influence of these domains of malevolence. Did a little side questing, both in terms of exploring what it takes to bring back one of the optional lords of the land, and also exploring, finally, some of the skill grid, which was actually less painful than I thought it would be, at least to dabble in it to the extent that we did. So maybe we can keep just dabbling as the game progresses. Found the Pope, tested Sorey's mettle, learned a lot more about the spirituality of the shepherd, and teed up really the next part of this journey. Yeah, Rinlin Gyo, I hope I'm saying your handle at least in a decent pronunciation, but thank you so much for tuning in. Really glad to see you not only watching but in the chat. It's always so much more fun for me when there's some good conversation to texture the stream. So thank you for providing that. Hope to see you same time on Friday. Yeah, I'll be back 7 p.m. Eastern. Looking forward to ringing in the weekend with some more of this. I'll leave you all with one more thought, which is maybe just free association, but it's kind of interesting to me. The way we're kind of progressing from free exploration into these free-ranging but more focused, like elemental-based trials right now. Maybe it's just because I have Zelda in the brain from all the Tears of the Kingdom, but it's almost like unexpectedly reminiscent to me of Ocarina of Time, which is such an older game, but I feel like especially in terms of this model of like quest-driven open worlds, I think it prefigured a lot of what we see in more modern games, so might be fun to tease that out a little bit too, especially in the Zelda season we are saturated with this month, thanks to Tears of the Kingdom as we go on here. So cheers everybody. This was so much fun, as always, as every one of these streams is. I'm Aaron Suduko, founder of With the Terrible Fate. This has been Tales of Praxis. Tune in same time on Friday. Keep your eyes peeled on withtheterriblefate.com for more articles, companion pieces. Very soon, I am working on it, I promise you, when I'm not buried in the stream and Tales of Destiny and too many other games. Okay, so you're thinking of Zelda too. That's good that it's not only on my mind, at least. That makes me feel a little less crazy. And for any Pokemon people out there, the other new piece of content that we have that I will hawk before we get off here, Dan Hughes has a new podcast episode in his amazing Pokemon Rose series all about how the villain groups, the teams of Pokemon, kind of evolved over the entries of the series from something almost like the mob in Team Rocket to something kind of more nuanced and thematically interesting in Team Magma and Aqua in Ruby and Sapphire. So check that out. It's short. It's really interesting. Be back here, same time, 2 days from now. I'll look forward to it. Cheers, everybody. Have a great night and game well in the meanwhile. Next time.